Hello and welcome to this week's Ruby Shoes podcast. No, don't adjust your set. It's me, struggling vocally this week. Still trying to bring you the very best of local entertainment though, across East Anglia each and every week. I'm not going to say too much because as you can detect, really struggling with the voice this week. But I did want to welcome you if this is your first time listening to the podcast, and if you're one of our many regular listeners. You'll know I don't normally sound like this. And just to say thank you so much for supporting live entertainment where you live. I've been out and about chatting to people before I lost my voice, so let's head off to Trimley Marshes, where I took a stroll with the director for this year's Suffolk Walking Festival. So this morning for Ruby Shoes podcast, we're at Trimley Marshes and we're having a lovely walk, although the rain has started to come down. And I'm with David Falk. He's the Green Access Manager for Suffolk County Council, but he's also in charge of a really popular walking festival which comes around every year, and he's here to tell us some more. David, thank you for braving the slightly inclement weather, I think we can say.
It was nice until about 2 seconds ago, wasn't it?
As soon as I hit record, the rain started.
Not to worry.
But we're looking forward, you see, even though the weather's a bit bleak at the moment, we're looking forward to brighter weather and lovely warm weather for Suffolk's Walking Festival. Yes. So how many years has it been running now?
Oh, golly. The first one was in 2008, and my maths is rubbish, but I think that makes it 17 years.
Probably. My maths is probably even worse than yours.
And I do get confused with, of course, the last couple of years with COVID, because we had to cancel the festival 2 years on the trot. So I sort of get confused by that. But I think this will be our 16th festival.
That's incredible, isn't it?
In this year, 2024.
So if people have been living under a rock and they haven't heard of the Suffolk Walking Festival, tell us more about it.
Well, it started off as a relatively small event in the middle bit of Suffolk. There's two districts there called Baber and Mid Suffolk, and the tourism officers there would work closely together to promote their areas, the heart of Suffolk. And they came up with this brilliant idea back in 2007 it was, to create a walking festival. And rightly or wrongly, they got me involved because I worked at the county council, so I had funding to help put on the festival. But I think what they didn't expect was that I would take it over. So in 2010, it evolved from the heart of Suffolk Walking Festival into the Suffolk Walking Festival. All the districts and all the boroughs across the county got involved. And then we introduced something called the Challenge Walk in 2012. And in 2018, we played a bit with it with something called the Fringe Festival as well. And then in 2021, we did a virtual festival. We did a podcast like you're doing. So we've really sort of developed the festival year on year. And every year we do a lot of feedback to find out how customers enjoy the event. And then we adapt it accordingly. So this year, we're trying to do a lot more what you might call experiential walks, where you're doing something. You might be foraging, or you might be writing poetry, or you're learning about the history. You're taking a boat trip as well as a walk.
Oh, lovely.
So we're doing a few of those to make it really sort of interesting and not just a long walk. So it's much more than just a walk. So yes, every year it evolves, it changes, and it's really fun. It works really well.
I think that's the thing, and it encourages people to get out that perhaps wouldn't normally and perhaps didn't know some of the walks across Suffolk. I mean, I've lived in Suffolk all my life, and there's loads of times I'll go to somewhere and I think, I wonder where there's a nice walk here that I can take the dog.
Yeah.
And so it really does help you to discover parts of Suffolk that you wouldn't normally have.
Yeah.
When does it all kick off?
It all starts, well, every year it's in May, the month of May. This year it starts on the 11th of May. And it goes on until the 26th of May, so it's 2 weeks with 57 walks. And
57?
57,
Oh, my goodness.
We have between 3 and 4 walks a day in all parts of the county. So, and just as you were just saying, there's so much in Suffolk to explore. We try to get really off the beaten track. So we'll go and explore the sort of lesser known villages or churches around the county, not just go to, as it were, the tourism hotspots where everyone goes always, but go to unusual places off the beaten track, if that makes sense.
It's just so brilliant. It must take an awful lot of planning And every year, I know sometimes you bring back popular walks, but every year there's new stuff added, isn't there? As you said, like, with the experiences this year.
Every year we have a team of walk leaders, and these are people who are volunteers in villages and places, people that we've got to know over the years. And they come up with the ideas, and there'll also be perhaps rangers from the National Trust and the RSPB and places like that. And we go to them every year with and they come with us back to us with ideas for walks. And then we always every year get new people who will write to us between festivals and say, can I lead a walk? I've been leading walks here, there, whatever. And we get hold of new walk leaders that way. So Gina, for example, Gina's actually from Vermont. She came over to Britain many years ago, set up her own business, and she does something called forest bathing walks, which is a Japanese practice. In Japan, it's called Shinrin-yoku, and she does this at Great Cornard Country Park, which is fantastic. So we've brought that into the festival as a new walk leader with a new type of walk, which is great. And then this year also we've been in touch with the Broads National Park. And often people think of the Broads as being all Norfolk, but it's not.
Well, I did. I was thinking, okay, we were going into Norfolk as well, which is fine.
we do sometimes cross the boundary a little bit, but no, the Broads National Park extends into Suffolk. Not a lot, but a little bit around Trimley Marshes. So we're going to do some walks. Yeah, so we're going to do some walks with the Broads National Park in Suffolk, with the Suffolk part of the Broads. And probably the most exciting new one we've got is a walk by a new walking group in Ipswich called Ambling African Women, which is a project we've been working on at council to create a new walking group with a charity called Phoebe. Phoebe
I know the charity. They do brilliant work, don't they?
It's extraordinary what Molyn, who's the chief exec, what she does there. It's really extraordinary. And we started working with them last year, and they love walking, but they didn't know where to go. So we've done a long project over the summer and autumn of exploring parts of Suffolk. And out of that, they've created their own walking group called Ambling African Women.
Brilliant title.
Which is fantastic. And they'll be leading a walk during the festival as well. So there's always something new every year.
Oh my goodness. So you've obviously whet everybody's appetite now, David. How can people find out and actually book to go on these walks?
Well, we've got our website, which is Suffolk Walking Festival. If you just Google that, you'll find it immediately. And then all the walks will be listed on there. We start selling tickets on the 1st of March. And so tickets will go on sale then. So we'll be... you'll be able to search all the different 57 walks. And just like on lots of websites, you can basket up all your tickets and buy those online. And with no booking fee.
Oh!
Yes.
Good to know.
Well, I don't know about you, Steph, but sometimes you see the price of something and you go to book it, and then there's another little charge on top.
Yeah, and it adds up, doesn't it? If you book several things and you think, hang on a minute, they've given me a separate booking fee for every one.
I know, and it's not the price you expected. So we're selling our tickets at face value with no booking fee, which I think is quite nice.
That's fantastic.
They're doing that. And yes, so they'll be available from the 1st of March. But keep an eye on the Walking Festival, because we'll be sending teasers out between now and then of walks that are coming.
I take it you've probably got all sorts of social pages that people can follow you on as well.
Definitely. We're on Facebook, Instagram, X, I think it's called now.
I know. Why do they change the name? I hate that.
Let's call it Twitter.
Exactly. Let's call it Twitter. We know what you mean.
Yeah.
And just as Suffolk Walking Festival, yeah?
Yeah, Suffolk Walking Festival. We also we have a long list of people that follow us. We have a newsletter. So if people want to email us through the website, they can do so. We'll stick them on the newsletter. And those go out every month. So it just keeps people up to date. It seems to work because last year, on the first day of ticket sales, on the 1st of March last year, we sold about 75% of our tickets.
Wow.
Which was just crazy.
Yeah.
Just crazy.
It's always popular.
Yeah.
And it's a real pleasure to find out about this year's, David. So thank you for braving a rather wet and dank January day. We're looking forward to those, as I say, lovely warm days in May when we can enjoy the walking festival again.
Thank you, Stephanie. Thank you very much.
At the end of last week, I caught up with Nicholas Collette, who's bringing 2 of Charles Dickens' plays to life for the start of the Bury Comedy Festival. The Theatre Royal in Bury St Edmunds is featuring The Ghost of a Smile on Thursday, the 1st of February. And it's two of Charles Dickens' creepy tales, but with a comic twist. Adapted and directed by Gavin Robertson and performed by Nicholas Collette. And I'm delighted to say Nicholas joins us now for Ruby Shoes. Nicholas, thanks so much. You're in charge of this because basically you're the performer. You're the one that's going to bring all of this to life. Tell me more about it. It sounds really interesting. Two kind of creepy, almost ghost stories, I assume.
Yeah, they certainly are. They're ghost stories. One is called The Chair, and that's a story about a kind of a commercial traveller who's caught in a storm in the West Country. He manages to get into an inn and probably has a bit too much of the local punch.
Mm-hmm.
Then finds himself having a very creepy encounter with a rather wizened and debauched old piece of furniture.
And I was about to say, so how do you turn that with a comic twist? But that you've just made it comical there.
There you go.
Right.
Dickens is utterly brilliant. It's an absolute joy to play these stories. And when Gavin adapted them, we've used all of Dickens' work. So we're not kind of doing a fancy schmancy new adaptation. Really, all we're doing is lifting the words off the page, giving it a physical performance, and letting the stories do their work. So the second story is called The Ghosts of the Mail. And there is a very nice link between the two stories, which I won't spoil here. But suffice to say, it's about a gentleman who is seeing a friend in the old town in Edinburgh, which is where the story is set. So for those who know Edinburgh, it will take you on a journey from the old town up over the North Bridge and over to Leith Walk. So it's delightful because, I mean, although Edinburgh will have changed vastly from when Dickens wrote the stories, that journey you can still do.
Oh, wow.
And you will still see many of the same sites that are mentioned in the story. But basically what happens is he gets involved in a journey with three rather creepy companions. And quite eventful, let's say.
How do you kind of play all of this? Because is it just performed by you? Have you got any support actors at all?
It's just me on my own, and I play all the characters. So, I mean, for example, in the first story, I play the hero of the story, who's a guy called Tom Smart. But I also play a maid, a buxom landlady, a bloke who fancies himself a bit too much, and the chair.
Oh, wow. And the chair.
So it's basically just storytelling, but it's kind of inhabiting a character. So I switch accents and, kind of physicality and the odd prop, like a shawl or a hat or a jacket. So it's really very easy for the audience to follow, we hope, because, each change is a very definite switch. Each new character, you kind of get to know them, so that if and when they reappear, you've already seen them. You kind of hook in and go, oh, okay, I know where I am now.
Yeah, and that's hard work, actually. So I take my hat off to you. Bury Theatre is a beautiful theatre, so it must be a real pleasure to perform there. Have you actually performed there before, Nicholas?
Yes, Gavin and I came there a couple of years ago with our very silly detective spoof called Done to Death by Jove.
Of course.
And we very much enjoyed our time at the Theatre Royal. And then they asked us back, so we went back last year, and Gavin performed his solo show, which is called Bond, an unauthorised parody, which is sort of everything James Bond in about an hour, without us mentioning the word James Bond or any of the other people, because we don't want anybody coming after us.
No, no copyright issues there. And these two, well, this particular performance and these two plays that you're putting together, it's all part of the Bury Comedy Festival. You're sort of kicking it off for them, aren't you?
Yeah, I think so. We are. I mean, we're just delighted to go back, and I think these two pieces, especially for sort of like the beginning of February, we're just through Christmas. We still have these dark nights. It's still winter, so it's a perfect time to go and see a couple of ghost stories. But and although they are they're quite chilling, they're quite ghostly. They do have this really lovely comic twist in them, which is sort of woven through them. When I play them, I can imagine Dickens just sitting there, sort of with a little smile playing across his lips, just thinking, I enjoyed writing them, and this fella's now really enjoying playing them.
And what a place to play them as well, because Dickens obviously was in Bury St Edmunds, not that far at all at the Angel Hotel,
Yep.
writing this stuff, maybe even writing this, who knows?
Who knows?
He was certainly writing there. He would be absolutely, gobsmacked, I should think, to know that his work is still being performed to this day and still enjoyed.
Indeed. And it's a testament to his skill as a writer, I think. We've taken this on tour. It's played all over the UK. I mean, we've been as far up north as Aberdeenshire. We took it to Cornwall last autumn. It's been all over the country. I played it in Florida last year. I think we'll probably at some stage take it to Australia, to Adelaide. But wherever we play it, people really identify with the characters. They love the stories. They love the character, and most of all, they love Dickens' writing.
Yeah, very much so. Nicholas, it's been an absolute pleasure to talk to you for the Ruby Shoes podcast. If you want to get tickets, it's theatreroyal.org, but get them soon because they are going to sell out. As I said, only the one performance. So you've got to get there for Thursday, the 1st of February, The Ghost of a Smile. Fantastic to talk to you, Nicholas. Thank you for your time today.
Thank you. Been a pleasure.
And if you want to find out more about the Bury St Edmunds Comedy Festival, it's a whole month of funny, laugh out loud comedy for February. So go to burystedmundsandbeyond.co.uk or just put Bury St Edmunds Comedy Festival 2024 into your search engine. And as often happens on the Ruby Shoes podcast, I'm joined by producer Ruby, who is our four-legged furry producer, who as soon as the microphone turns on, she decides to either dig the carpet up or find one of her noisy toys. Thank you for that, Ruby. Now, something else I wanted to mention this week, don't miss the opportunity to see Ipswich's Gallery Players performing Celebrating Sondheim Volume 2. After the select success of their 2022 Memoriam concert celebrating Sondheim, the Gallery Players revisit the musical theatre master's catalogue with a brand new edition. It's full of hit songs from his blockbuster shows such as Sweeney Todd, Into the Woods and Company, but also lesser-known gems from Saturday Night, Assassins, Passion, as well as unreleased and cut material that's just too good to be forgotten. It features a cast of gallery all-stars and a terrific live band. So this unmissable evening celebrates the life and work of the musical theatre's greatest writer, of course, Stephen Sondheim. We'll be there too for Ruby Shoes podcast with a full review in next week's episode. The idea of the show came from the director Wayne Ablett, with musical direction by Matthew Snow and musical staging by Wayne himself and Harriet Bacon. For tickets, go to gallerystudiotheatre.co.uk. So that's on this Friday, the 2nd of February, and Saturday, the 3rd of February, at the Gallery Studio Theatre in St George's Street in Ipswich. And to find out more, it's gallerystudiotheatre.co.uk. A modern adaptation of Romeo and Juliet comes to the New Wolsey Theatre from the beginning of February. And I'm delighted to be talking to Ben Prudence. He is an actor, and you've got 3 parts to play, haven't you, in this?
I do, yes. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for joining us on the Ruby Shoes podcast. Tell me about the 3 characters, first of all.
Yes, so I am playing Mercutio, Romeo's kind of best friend, but a neutral party in the kind of Montague-Capulet conflict. I'm also playing Paris, who is, with enough, Mercutio's kind of cousin, and Juliet's other would-be suitor, who she is kind of introduced to before Romeo. So that's kind of like a romantic foil that's set up even before their narrative kind of gets into play. And I'm also playing Balthazar, another one of Romeo's friends, who kind of delivers some bad news towards the end to try and keep it spoiler free.
I was going to say, let's not go too far into that. We don't want to give away any spoilers. Not.
Yeah.
And as I say, this is a very modern adaptation of Romeo and Juliet, isn't it? It's about a hostile and dangerous city, families sort of waging a really bitter war. That's very, very different, isn't it? Can you tell me a bit more about the plot and what it's been like to actually rehearse such a play with such a modern twist to it for a Shakespeare's classic?
Yeah, it's been an interesting one. I think one of the things coming into it that we tried to kind of really ground in this production is obviously we're in a world where there's a lot of conflict going on a lot of different fronts, and it's not necessarily trying to like ape one of those or be like, this is a play that's about this thing that is happening right now, but it's obviously something that's not been far from any of our minds. It's more about the interplay of kind of young people growing up in such a conflict, the ways that kind of information is disseminated. So there's a lot of stuff with phones and cameras and projections of kind of national broadcasts, and trying to find your place in a world that is kind of so adrift. We've had we will have 2 cameras on stage during the show, which we will be free to kind of operate if there is kind of a crucial moment that we want to pull in on someone else when they're performing. And it's interesting. It's not something that I've done on stage before, but it gives you a slightly different feel for, obviously we are acting for stage, so there is and it's Shakespeare, so there is an inherent kind of elevation that's sort of needed. But at the same time, having a camera there kind of allows you to pitch some moments in a little bit more intimately, which obviously a play like this absolutely needs.
It's almost giving it like a third dimension, isn't it, really? Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
And have you actually taken part in Romeo and Juliet in any form before in your acting career up to date, or is this the first for you?
I've not, no. I think, no, I mean, we looked at some of like their first meeting at drama school, but really more as an exercise for the lines as opposed to a performance. It's really not a play that I knew very well coming to this. I think I'd seen about half of the Baz Luhrmann film in about year 9. But yeah, I came to this with kind of a fresh pair of eyes. I knew the iconography of it, but I didn't really know the story. So that's been really exciting for me. Is just like coming into it without any preconceived notions of who these characters are or who they're meant to be. It feels a lot more. I don't know. I can't speak for the rest of the cast, but it feels much more like I've been able to put my stamp on who these people are.
Yeah, and I think that, as you quite rightly said, it's a fresh pair of eyes, so it gives it a whole fresh outlook automatically, which I think is interesting and a really good and brave decision for the new Wolsey, and obviously the director as well, Doug Grintle. So well done. And how have you found it? How have you found it? Is it? I mean, because obviously you're still in rehearsing now. Those last sort of 5 days, but is it quite challenging? Are you relishing it, or is it kind of a bit of 50-50?
It is challenging, but it's challenging, but it's what a delightful challenge to have. We're just starting on week 3 now. We spent the first week kind of really pulling the text apart, working out what every line meant, what you are trying to do to the other person with what you're saying, really making sure that there was kind of a solid foundation there, which then meant last week and now this week we've been able to get it on its feet and kind of go into something with a clear sort of line for what you're trying to do. And then now it's just a case of giving it blocking, giving it a structure, and making sure that it feels dynamic and exciting. Because I think there's nothing worse than like a production that feels kind of impregnable. Like, you know what all the elements are, but you can't get like a handle on what it's trying to say or what you're meant to be feeling. And I think that's something that we're really trying to kind of ground right now. So yeah, it's a lot of fun.
It is a lot of fun. It's a lot of work as well for all of you. So well done, all of you. And I think all of you put that kind of magic sparkle on there, and you're in safe hands. So I'm sure with the excellent directing and all of your talent, you and the cast, it's going to be fantastic. It comes to the Wolsey Theatre from the Thursday the 1st through to Thursday the 8th of February. Tickets in the usual way from the usual Wolsey Theatre, I take it?
They are indeed, yes, on sale now.
Excellent. Well, what's next for you? What was your sort of hopes for the next 12 months after this?
That's a great question. I don't know. Whoever wants to take me on for something, I'm pretty open. I think so. This is as is the case for a lot of the cast. This is a lot of our kind of like first, if not stab at Shakespeare, our kind of first go at like performing on sort of a mid-scale stage in like a sort of producing house. So I mean, if there's more of that down the line, that would be amazing. I'm obviously, as are the rest of the cast, kind of based in East Anglia. I am potentially looking to kind of move towards London and see what is kind of happening there, but we shall see.
Okay. Well, I
see what's on the horizon.
Good luck with your future career. Break a leg for this production. I'm certainly very much looking forward to seeing you and the rest of the cast perform on stage. And as we said, if you want to get your tickets, it's the new Wolsey Theatre's website. So just jump on there and you can see Ben and the rest of the cast in action. Thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you for having me. It's been a pleasure.
If you'd like to review a forthcoming theatre show near where you live, get in touch with us via our socials at Ruby Shoes Podcast. Just let me know what the show is that you're interested in reviewing and when it's on, and tell me a little bit about yourself as well, and you could be a featured reviewer on a future episode. You can always listen again to any of the Ruby Shoes podcasts via Apple or Spotify or your smart speaker. Just ask for Ruby Shoes Podcasts, or simply click on our weekly podcast links on our Facebook page. I'm Steph McIntyre. Thanks for listening, and we'll chat more about live theatre and entertainment in next week's episode. In the meantime, do check out our socials at Ruby Shoes Podcast. See you next week.